What if the history you celebrate is off by just one day? For most people, that might seem like a tiny little footnote. But for the city of Hue, and for the soldiers who actually fought for it, that one day has become a source of decades of confusion, anger, and believe it or not, even violence. So how did a single date manage to divide comrades and rewrite history? Let's get into it.
Now, I'm not exaggerating about the human cost. This quote from the man at the center of our story, Colonel Nguyen Kok Miert, is absolutely shocking. It shows that this isn't just some dusty academic debate. We're talking about two former comrades, men who fought side by side, who ended up in an armed confrontation over what should be a simple historical fact. It's just tragic.
So yeah, that's the big question here, isn't it? We're going to unpack exactly why the official Liberation Day for Hue is celebrated on March 26th, when the soldiers who were actually there, fighting on the ground, are adamant that it all went down on March 25th. To really get this, we've got to start with the personal story of the author himself, Colonel Nguyen Kok Miert. He wasn't just a researcher, he was an eyewitness to history.
Just try to imagine this for a second. You are part of a massive, historic battle. You remember the day perfectly. Then, 20 years later, you go back to the city you helped liberate, and the entire city is celebrating, but on the wrong day. That's exactly what happened to Colonel Witt, and it kicked off this long, personal mission to set the record straight.
Okay, so let's break this down. What's the deal with these two different dates? What actually happened on the 25th, and what happened on the 26th that caused all this confusion?
And here's where it gets really interesting. The 25th was the day of the actual tactical victory. It's the day the fighting happened, the city fell, and it was, for all intents and purposes, liberated. The 26th, on the other hand, was the day of a more symbolic, ceremonial victory. So the real difference here is between capturing the city and commemorating the capture. Two very different things.
This photo really captures the reality on the ground. By the afternoon of March 25th, troops were already moving through key areas, just like the citadel you see here. The opposition had pretty much collapsed or fled. As far as the soldiers were concerned, the fight for Hue was over.
But hey, memory can be tricky, right? So Colonel Witt didn't just rely on his own recollections. He knew he needed more. So he hit the books. He went digging in the official archives to see if the documents backed up his experience.
And what he found was pretty incredible. He went through the official party history books from all the districts and cities surrounding Hue. And guess what? One after another, they all said their Liberation Day was either on March 25th or even before March 25th, 1975. The documents were telling the exact same story as the veterans.
So when you put his own firsthand experience together with all that documentation, the conclusion was, well, it was pretty undeniable. The entire province was effectively in revolutionary hands by the time the sun set on March 25th.
Okay, so if the soldiers who were there and the local official records all point to the 25th, why on earth is the big anniversary party on the 26th? Well, the answer seems to be a mix of the fog of war and, the stories we tell after the fact. The official story really seems to hang on that big, formal flag-raising ceremony on the 26th. It was a great photo op. But the confusion was also fueled by the chaos of the battle itself. You had different units reporting success at different times, so the information was a bit jumbled. But more pointedly, the author suggests that after the war, the interests of some individuals and groups helped lock in the March 26 story, maybe to give a specific unit credit for that final symbolic act. So where did all this confusion lead? What was the actual fallout from this historical mix-up, and what, if anything, was done to try and fix it?
And this, right here, is why it matters so much. This isn't just about getting a date right in a history book. It's about honoring the lived reality of the people who were there. For them, this mistake is a constant source of frustration. It has led to these just heartbreaking conflicts between the very people who should be united by a shared bond.
After Colonel Nguyen published his research, there was this glimmer of hope. The Military History Institute actually acknowledged the problem and promised to hold a big scientific conference to finally settle the date. But then, nothing. It just never happened. The momentum was lost, and the whole issue was just left to simmer, unresolved within the veteran community.
And that really just gets to the heart of the whole thing, doesn't it? The official records, the ceremonies, the anniversaries, that's one version of history. But the lived experiences, the actual memories of the people who made that history, that's another version. And sometimes they just don't line up.
Ultimately, the story leaves us with a really critical question. When there's a conflict between the official story and what people actually experienced, what is our responsibility? Fixing the state isn't just about being accurate. It's really a call to honor the truth, to restore the real value of these national milestones, and to make sure the sacrifices of those who fought are remembered the way they actually happened,